Hello, everyone, and we welcome you once again to Shifting Tides. Today, we have with us Fumi Johns Stewart, a world server and a peace worker. She's the executive director of May Peace Prevail on Earth International. She currently lives in the US, but she prefers to have two homes, in Japan and in the US. So let's welcome Fumi Johns Stewart. Welcome, Fumi. Welcome to Shifting Tides.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be with you, Mahima, and our Shifting Tides family. Thank
Entirely
you.
our pleasure. Entirely. So, Fumi, to begin with, what does May Peace Prevail on Earth do?
Oh, that is a beautiful question, Mahima, because I live and breathe, may peace prevail on earth. And this message is now embraced around the world. Millions of people have embraced this message. Has quite a long history of 70 years. So
Okay.
it's not something that happened recently.
Hmm.
So with that said, you can imagine how many people have seen this message, have
Yeah.
embraced this message, have truly resonated with this message. And I think that makes this message very powerful. And as you know about mantras, mantras, the power of words, that words have spiritual power. And when so many people are chanting, praying, and has invokes a mantra, that it becomes very, very powerful. And I think may peace prevail on earth. The power lies in that it's a modern day mantra.
Okay.
It
Great.
can
Yeah.
be, embraced by children. It's easy for children to say it. It's easy for children to understand it.
Yeah.
It's not such a difficult, the words are very simple, but it's very deep. So I think there's power in the modern day mantra that can be understood. It's easy, it's simple, and it really is a meeting place of the heart. So,
Beautiful.
in a nutshell, I think that's the power of May Peace Prevail on Earth.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I do know that this came about in your life as an outcome to an aha moment that you had when you were a child. And that happened in Japan, I presume, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So could you just talk about as to how did it happen and what was that aha moment?
Yes. And I always love answering that question because we all have aha moments, the
Absolutely.
moment that gives us that connection.
Yes.
And for me, as you know, Mahima, my father's American and
Mm,
my mother's Japanese.
yeah.
So, and I grew up in post-war World War II Japan. So growing up, I had uh, a question in my mind as a young child, and it was very troubling to me. And that question was, why did my father's country, America,
Mm.
uh, drop the atomic bomb on my mother's country?
Oh.
Of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yes, yes, yes.
So post-war Japan, that was very much still alive, the destruction and the dropping of the atomic bomb. So that really, was heavy on my heart growing up as a young child. So I think through that experience and feeling and emotion, I wanted to grow up to become a peacemaker, to work for world peace, and especially to become a bridge between uh, Japan and the United States, between East and West. That how can I become that bridge? So that was sounded at a very young age. And when I was 21, I left Japan to go to university
Okay.
in California.
Hmm.
And my friend showed me a bumper sticker.
Okay.
Okay, and let me see if I have a bumper sticker here. Okay, the bumper sticker. Here's a bumper sticker
Ah,
for the
okay.
car, for the car. And it said, "May peace prevail on earth." And that was my aha moment. I
Hmm.
thought, I want to know everything about that message. That was my aha moment of knowing that I was so connected to this message. I wanted to know all about it, and that this is what I came here to do. It was a knowing, very deep soul awakening knowing. So to me, that is the greatest aha moment in my life that connected me on the soul level, on the spiritual level to this work. And of course, that was, oh, if I may say, that was over 60 years ago. No,
Oh,
no, that makes me too old. uh, Maybe 40 years ago. How
40
about
years. 40 years makes
so,
better sense. Yes, yes.
and so I stayed with the group, or I discovered, then I discovered that this message came out of Japan.
Hmm.
And that was another aha moment that, here is the answer to my wish, my desire as a young child to bridge East and West, that this message that I became instantly connected to was from Japan.
Okay,
And
okay.
that the founder, Masahisa Goi, had a very, he was a mystic, visionary philosopher. He founded the message in 1955, long history, and he often said that the mission of Japan is to spread a strong message of peace because Japan was the only survivor of the atomic bomb.
Hmm.
So everything sort of came into place, and fortunately, at such a young age, and many decades later, um, here I am working for the organization, and of course, I've seen the stages of development
Yeah.
of the movement, coming
So
out of.
did you meet the gentleman, the Japanese?
Well, Mahima, in my spirit world, in my dreams, in my prayers, I'm very close, and I've dreamt about the founder many times,
Okay.
and I receive intuition, but unfortunately, I did not meet him in the flesh.
Oh, I see.
Yes, in person. I
Yeah,
was
but in
living,
spiritual, his spirit, he
oh,
knows you are continuing his mission. You're
so
continuing his
connected.
mission.
And
Yeah.
it's a bonus to meet somebody in the physical, in the flesh,
Mm.
because of course we want that physical connection, but I think the deepest connection is in the spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
So he's
And
very. Yes.
yeah, yeah. Go on, go on.
No, go.
Okay. And also, the thing that you brought out with this message is creating peace poles. So,
Yeah.
how did the peace poles come about? And what exactly? And I do know that besides being, I mean, this is what I can interpret, that besides being just poles, they are also signifying a very deep spiritual message.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, Mahima. And I hope all our viewers have seen a peaceful somewhere planted on earth, or
I
will.
hope so, yes.
Yes, we'll see one soon. So behind me, this is a peace pole,
Okay.
and it's a four by four. This is the classic peace pole, and they come in various sizes, but this is a classic peace pole, and it carries the message, "May peace prevail on earth,"
Okay.
in many languages. We have a collection of almost all the languages of the world. So
Wow.
they've been planted around the planet. Well, the history, of course, is starts back in 1960s after, the founder, Masahisa Goi. He was a spiritual healer. He was a teacher. He guided a lot of people came to him for consultation, and the group started to grow around him. And a decade and a half later, they said, "Well, this is such an important message to put out to the community. How can we convey this message?" So, of course, they had the stickers, and they, had booklets and pamphlets. But someone said, "How about something like a peace pole?" He visualized this peace pole. And that was the start of the Peace Pole. It started to be planted throughout Japan.
Okay.
And, the peace poles, we call them the acupuncture of the earth.
Yeah,
And
that's what I thought. Yeah, that's
it's
what I
very
thought.
much so. It's got that symbol of you plant it deep into the ground. There's a healing quality to a peace pole. It works, it conveys this very beautiful message into our, spirit, mind, and body of a human being, but it also, connects to the earth by being planted. It has that healing quality, and it connects, us to all of nature and all living things. We think that the peace poles are very much alive.
Yeah.
And after they're planted, they continue to interact and communicate with everybody that comes to, that passes by a peace pole. So, we get quite a bit of, used to get letters and emails saying, "Oh, I saw a peace pole in such and such a place while I was traveling." And, we'd get these photographs of people standing by the peace pole. It really moves
Wow.
them.
Yeah.
So that's the magic of peace poles. And
So somewhere also, when you plant the peace pole on earth and they're pointing towards the heavens, so it's also bringing heaven and earth together.
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Communication between our world and the higher worlds.
Fireworks.
And Mahima, just imagine there are over 200,000 of these peace poles planted around the
Wow.
planet.
Wow.
So it's creating this light grid, a network of light around the planet. And as you say, it communicates upward. It sends a, like frequency of peace upward. We very much believe that, the higher worlds, all the beings are alive,
Yeah.
and there's people in the our galactic family,
Yeah.
and people on Earth. We're all communicating and collaborating to create and help planet Earth right now,
Hmm.
shift into the next age, or the new, bringing in the new Earth, ushering the new Earth. And as you very much know, you're so involved in shifting tides, but the title itself is really the shift
Yeah.
of what we're all here to create together. So the peaceful is very much, I would say, communication device or portal to really make the interaction of all the divine energies that are working now, especially to help to usher us into the next realm.
Yeah. Right. And when did you begin doing this? I mean, going and putting these peace poles around the world. How many years ago was that?
Oh, I have a story, Mahima, about
Yeah,
that.
love to hear. Would love to hear.
So, um, I was living in Japan, and at that time it was mid 19. No, it was early 1980. It must have been 1982 or three.
Okay.
I was in Japan, and this was when the movement was just based in Japan. It had not become international yet. And I was volunteering for the group. Um, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be wonderful to plant peace bowls in America? You know, to bring these
Okay.
peace bowls and plant them in America,
Yeah.
United States. So I thought, well, I we always say that uh, cleansing or purifying karmic history,
Hmm.
you know, the history of of course of individuals, but also of nations and countries
Yeah.
are very important. And I thought of the United States, and when the United States um, began as little colonies, there were 13 colonies. That was the start before the United States was formed.
Yeah.
The first, you know, uh, um, attempt at uniting was the unification of these 13 colonies got together.
Yeah.
And that was the first sign of, you know, creating a nation.
Hmm.
Uh, so I thought, wouldn't it be just very significant, spiritually significant, if the first peace bowls planted in the United States were planted in these 13 colonies?
Oh, beautiful.
And those 13 colonies are, of course, in the East Coast, you know,
Okay.
the first founding colonies. So it went from Maine, you know, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia,
Okay.
you know, Washington, West Virginia, and down to Rhode Island,
Okay.
13 colonies. And there are states now. So I traveled with a Japanese girlfriend, and
Mhm.
just the two of us. We embarked on a peace pole journey to plant peace poles in the 13 original colonies. And you can imagine, Mahima, in those days we didn't have email
Hmm.
or an iPhone and everything. You know, this was 1982. We had to do everything by letter, by
Oh.
um, public telephone. And, you know, somehow we managed to create a map, and we planted all the routes, contacted these people, centers, people's home, shops, community centers, and so forth beforehand.
Okay.
And we went for 3 weeks, and we drove the 13 colonies to plant peace poles in all of these places. And
Awesome.
we planted a total of 51 peace poles.
Awesome.
And the significance of 51, the number 51, it is the name of the founder. It's a symbol of the name of the founder.
Okay.
Go is 5, and
Right.
E is 1.
So 51. Oh, I see.
51.
Okay.
So, you know, there was, you know, there are significance and
Yeah.
symbolism in
Yeah.
many of the things we do.
Beautiful.
And that was a beautiful way to honor him,
Hmm.
the founder, who had already deceased at that time.
Okay.
And that was the start of bringing the Peace Bowls out of Japan.
Hmm.
And from there, it just people found out about it. There were articles written about it. People wanted peace polls. So a few years after that journey, we found a peace poll maker. We call them the
Oh,
peace poll maker. Um, a family that took the project on and
okay.
started to craft peace bowls in the United States.
Okay.
That was the
So,
founding of the Peaceful. Hmm.
and initially, when you went putting in those initial colonies, how did you spot the place? Was it intuitive? How did you figure out that this spot would be ideal for a piece?
Well, we always work through intuition.
Yes.
Of course, there is the intuition, but in those days, there was a directory of spiritual centers, New Age centers,
Okay. Okay.
healing centers, and I found this book, and I started and churches, organizations. It was like you know, uh, the Google, the
Yes.
Google internet page, and
I
this big
know.
thick book.
Yes, I know. I can imagine. Yes, we are so
So
used to technology now that we can't even imagine there was a time when none of this existed.
yes, yes. So it was a fabulous book. And so I went through each state and I contacted many of the organizations
Okay.
that, and health food stores, factories that were listed in the book. And if they could not accept the peaceful because they didn't have property or it wasn't the right location, they then in turn introduced us to people in their community.
I see. Okay.
And quite a few of them went to their town hall or their city library, and we were able to plant peace poles with mayors of
Okay. Wow.
towns and cities. So it just spread, and it's very magical how the peace poles
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
accepted and
And
planted.
and another thing is you said that it's in almost all world languages.
Yes,
So you must have managed to get people to write it in their own language.
we
So,
did.
and how did you do that? And then of course that comes to my second question is that there are so many conflict zones in the world right now,
Mhm. Mhm.
and those are the places that need peace poles more than any other place. Of course, right now the whole world needs it because we're going through a complete crisis. But
Mhm.
the conflict zones would need them more. So,
Yeah.
one, do you, okay, too many questions. Let's go one by one. Let's go. Let's go one.
So beautiful that you're very excited about this topic. I love it, Mahima.
Yeah. So to begin with, I think the first thing which I'd like to know is how did you manage to get people in different languages to
Mhm.
carve or write
Yeah.
on the
Yes.
peace poles?
Well, the founding group in Japan also thought the same thing, that if we want various languages to be placed on the peace pole to represent the global family, we need a translation. So they had a big activity project to send their members to all the embassies.
Okay. Okay.
Well, most of them would be in Tokyo, and to pay them a visit and ask them for a translation, and which they did. There are 193 countries that are recognized by the United Nations. And
Okay.
of course, there are other garden states and emerging nations, but 193, most of them are recognized by the UN, except for Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Taiwan is still not a UN recognized country, and Tibet.
Okay. Yeah.
But we of course we recognize them, and we have a translation for Tibetan, and many people support the Tibetan cause, so that we have most of the languages covered. And so we're very fortunate. We also, while we did that collection of the languages, which was decades ago, we asked the embassy members to speak the language in their own tongue, a
Okay.
recording. So
Okay.
we have a recording of May Peace Prevail on Earth spoken in 101 languages of the world. We have a recording.
Wow. Wow.
Beautiful. So I believe that that should be on our website. I love that recording. You know, it never goes out of date.
Yes, I know. I
It
know.
continues to stay alive and just to listen to the
It
words.
should become the world anthem today. It should
Yes.
become the world anthem.
Mm.
Really, you know? Okay, and now the second question is that there's so many conflict zones in the world. So, have you managed to get to any of those areas? Syria, Yemen,
Um,
Afghanistan. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, we have one at the border of, there is a pass somewhere. Uh, it's at the border of, oh, you know, sometimes my memory is not so, it doesn't serve me, but it's at the border of uh, the, there's a checkpoint that
Okay.
goes from Kashmir to Pakistan. Do you know that checkpoint? There is a
Oh,
checkpoint, a border checkpoint,
okay.
and there is, and it's a great military, you know, post,
Okay.
and there's a peaceful there, for example.
Okay. What language is it written in?
Well, of course, it's
Hindi?
Hindi and
Okay.
Urdu and English and probably some other language that represents that region. We have one at the Allenby, I think it's called the Allenby Bridge between Israel and Palestine.
Okay.
We have one, of course, in Palestine. Uh, a group of people went to the border of Syria, looking down from Jordan on a hill, and they planted a peaceful there.
Beautiful.
We actually had a big ceremony at the border of North and South Korea. So I think, you know, I believe that the members who and supporters feel that it's very important to bring this, you know, because the Peace Bowl carries an energy field. It's an energy of healing and peace and awakening and future visions. And so many of the supporters bring these to places of conflict. We had um, she works for the military medical corps uh, with the U.S. military. In the U.S. military, she was stationed to Afghanistan for a year,
Mhm.
and she brought a peace bowl to plant at the local school there
Okay.
in the center of Kabul. I think many people are called to, you know, it just creates a
Mhm.
bridge, a beautiful connection
Yeah.
with people, and people are moved to bring this to
Yeah.
places of conflict, but also to um, locations that are meaningful to them, you know, to
Yeah.
school, their places of worship, to public, you know, parks. The Rotary Club is very active in planting peace bowls. You know,
Okay.
so very many of the organizations are involved. It's just beautiful, and I think because I believe the peace poles know where they want to be
Yeah.
planted,
Yeah.
and they communicate that to you. It's
Wow.
just beautiful.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And has there been any incident where you have been um, uh, it's kind of got rejected in the sense it was refused to be planted by the people there? Has it ever been Has it ever happened?
Well, interesting enough, Mahima, we know that the consciousness of the planet is evolving.
Yeah.
It's just evolving all the time.
Yes.
But in the 80s, when we first started planting peace bowls in the international community, there were some places that were hesitant. And they were hesitant because they they said, well, what is it for?
Hmm.
It was, um, some did not understand what this would represent. Their capacity was still not. They couldn't understand what this was for,
Yeah.
and then others would. Uh, I guess it's all timing.
Hmm.
Because in the 80s, I think we were just still coming out into that era where we understood about, unity and oneness and, um, the global community. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
and
No,
now the
there was
conscious.
absolutely, yeah, there was absolutely very little awareness about
Yes,
this
exactly.
this
And
levels. Yeah.
and now people see the peaceful, and it's almost like they have their own aha moment
Yeah.
that they want one, or they want to plant one, they want to gift one to their community. So we most of the people who ask us for peace bowls have seen it somewhere,
Hmm.
and they want to plant the peace bowls in their community. So I think we've come, in the last 30 years, the consciousness has changed. And
Yeah.
I think the limited, human consciousness at that time often prohibited those people from understanding the depth of the message and the peaceful. But I would say the majority always embraced it. There were just only a few who had a block.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it's been embraced
Yeah. Yeah.
by the world community. I believe it's the most recognized peace monument on Earth now, with so many planted. Hmm.
Beautiful. And what is the largest size of it? And where in America what is the landmark point of the Peace Bowl in America?
Oh my goodness, landmark point. I would like to say they're all equally respected and loved.
Okay.
But the tallest peace bowl is almost it's in a park. It's I think 40 feet tall. I don't know
Oh,
how tall
wow.
that is in meters. Quite tall. Um, uh, I would say the most iconic one is at the Mount Fuji sanctuary at the foot of Mount Fuji, where the
Okay.
movement was started in
Okay.
Japan. And
Okay.
they have a beautiful, peaceful, six-sided, you know,
Oh, wow.
six-sided, that's standing on this beautiful hill where people go and meditate. And of course, some of the um, iconic peace bowls would be along the peace pole path. And we have three peace pole paths on the planet. And a peace pole path is usually it's in nature. It's a winding path where both sides are lined with peace poles representing every country on Earth. So you can imagine walking up this beautiful path, and each peace pole has the name of the country in a prayer dedicated to that country. So it would start from, Afghanistan, may peace be in Afghanistan, may peace prevail on earth. And then it has the prayer message in the words of that country. And you walk along the peace pole. So you see a peaceful dedicated to the spirit and souls of every nation in English and the tongue of the native country. It's just
Beautiful.
touching, to
And where are these
feel.
peaceful paths?
One is at the Mount Fuji Sanctuary, the Fuji Sanctuary in
Okay.
Japan,
Okay.
and one is at the New York World Peace Sanctuary, where May Peace Prevail on Earth has a headquarter.
Okay.
It's we are an NGO based out of New York, upstate New York, and so there's a beautiful winding peace path, and at the foot of each peace pole is a how would you say, a photo, a little graphic photo of where that country is located on the
Okay. Okay.
on the world. Some people don't know where,
Yeah.
for example, well, Kazakhstan, or there's 53 countries on the continent of Africa.
Hmm.
Do we know
We don't know
the
exactly.
names of
Yeah.
those countries and where they are? So it has a map, and it has the map, the flag of every country underneath the
Oh,
peace poles. It's
beautiful.
quite moving. And the third peace pole, it's not, I shouldn't say it's a peace pole path, because we call it the peace pole henge.
Okay.
In England, there's the Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. Yes.
Yes, and it's
Yes.
circular. So
Yeah.
this is a peaceful henge, and it's circular.
Beautiful. And
Oh, just so beautiful.
yeah. And where is it?
That's in Scotland. hmm
Wow.
We have three sanctuaries, World Peace Sanctuaries. One is at the foot of Mount Fuji, one is in upstate New York, and one is in Scotland.
So, in your entire experience of so many years being associated with May Peace Prevail on Earth, what has been your most endearing and heart-touching experience?
That's so difficult, Mahima. Oh,
But if you can think of any
well,
really,
one
yeah,
comes to mind right away.
yeah,
We have we present what we call the World Peace Flag Ceremony. World Peace Flag Ceremony.
okay,
And it's a very moving, it's a ceremony ritual where we have flag bearers carrying the flags of every nation to represent the spirit and soul of every nation.
mhm,
And we call out each country, and the flags are brought out, and we invoke peace in that country while the flags are being presented. So it would be India. May peace be in India. May peace prevail on earth. Japan. May peace be in Japan. May peace prevail on earth. And we go around the planet. It's such a tremendous energy field of love. It's love in action, is what I call it. Just celebrating the oneness of humanity across all boundaries. It just really brings
so
the
beautiful.
energy field of love for healing. And during those ceremonies, we have volunteers carrying the flag. And I remember many years ago, and I still remember that as an example. This man fought in the Vietnam War. And I get teary because, growing up in Japan, we were very close to Vietnam, and we were very affected growing up as teenagers. And he was a veteran from the Vietnam War. And there are no coincidences in anything.
Yeah.
So you're going around, you don't know which flag you're going to carry. He got the Vietnam flag. And he carried that flag. He said, and afterwards, he came to me and told me the story. He said, Fumi, I got the Vietnam flag, and I just didn't know what to do. I froze because I thought, how am I going to go through with this? But he said, well, that was his aha moment. He said, I really connected with, my experience, the war, the people of Vietnam, and he had great healing take place at that moment. And he said he carried that flag, with just so much reverence throughout the ceremony. And to me, that came to mind when you said, when you asked me that question. And as you can see, I still get choked up thinking about it. During that ceremony, well, most often, no one knows what flags they will receive. They pick up the flag and they walk around. Many people, often we have people carry 2 or 3 flags. And so often they will come to me after and say, I can't believe it. I got the flag of my ancestors. Or I got the flag of a country that I really am connected to. So there's really no coincidences how, magical and mysterious, the divine works through us.
And on another level, the divine is working on a completely different level where we can't even fathom, which we can't even ever interpret or fathom and figure out how is it working.
Yes.
Yeah. So in a way, my next question was how, in the bigger picture, has peace polls impacted the world? But I think by your example, which you've given of the gentleman who held the Vietnam flag, I think with these little collective incidents, that's how it has a ripple effect around the world and it impacts the world, right? Or would
Yes.
you like to add anything to that?
Well, because, we know it's the acupuncture of the earth. And when people see a peace poll, they have their aha moment.
Yeah.
When they find out that there are over 200,000 of these planted around the world, they feel very connected to it. Like this connects them to people from other countries and cultures and tradition that have the same love for humanity and love for the planet.
Yeah.
It really moves people in a very deep, profound way. And of course, I mentioned that it stands way after they're planted, and it's like a beacon of light that continues to radiate love out to human hearts, to plants and animals, all creation, and it's continuously working to connect that field of love. I
Yeah.
think it's really a beautiful symbol, and it's working.
It's working.
It keeps
Absolutely.
working, and it's alive.
It is alive. Yes, it's got a life of its own. It's got a life of its own. And and tell me, Fumi, if this hadn't happened to you, what would you have done with your life?
Oh, well, I have a love for health and healing.
Okay.
Uh, so I think I would have gone into the field of health and healing,
Mhm.
uh, healthy living, healthy eating, respect for nature, and all of the alternative healing modalities in the world. As you know, you have many in
In India.
India, including Ayurveda.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in health and healing.
Mm. Well,
Yeah,
what you're doing is very connected to that, healing the
I
planet
believe
Earth.
so.
Healing
I
the
believe
planet Earth.
so. Healing the planet, healing the
Yes.
planet. Hmm.
So, what is your vision from now on, especially in the we are under crisis. The world is going through a complete crisis. In such a scenario, what is your vision with regards to may peace prevail on earth?
Yes.
Polls.
Well, I think the vision is a vision for all of humanity to hold. And recently, I came across a indigenous, Native American prophecy, and the prophecy is called the Eighth Fire, and it's a prophecy of the Anishinaabe tribe,
Okay.
and the prophecy is happening now, according to their ancient calendars.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a path, and a man is walking along this path, and he comes to a crossroads where one path he sees leading to the negative world of destruction and pain and suffering, and one world he sees beauty, a beautiful world. And he stands there and says, which path am I going to take? And the path he took was, he returns. He goes backward. And that prophecy signifies, or the meaning of it is, he wants to return to discover his ancient wisdom, the source, his source, returning to source, the source of the souls of humanity. And, the source of creator is what he's saying.
Yeah.
So it's not, so I think to me that really is, I can align with that prophecy, and looking at the vision of the future is returning to who we are,
Yeah.
is recognizing and respecting our divine source, our divine spark in us, that we've always had that.
Yeah.
And how throughout the ages we've complicated things so much, and we think from the head too much. We need to return to the heart and the soul. So to me, that is a beautiful vision of the future that I think we all strive for. We're all striving for answers. We're all searching.
Yeah.
But it's by returning to source and our true self, the creator, what the creator, how the creator lives in us and expresses through us. That is the source. That is the vision. Is the future vision of our planet. I really believe that.
Absolutely. And you have a beautiful tool in your hands, the peace poles. It's beautiful.
But Mahima, I believe so many of us have been guided this lifetime, and we're walking our path. We all have a mission, we all have a purpose, and not one person can do that alone. More than that, I think, the destiny of the planet that the Creator has in mind, which is way beyond our human intelligence and, human knowing, that there is a divine plan. I really believe that. And maybe it's being hopeful because, wishful, because the crisis of the world does not look good for us, at the moment. But I think as we talked about the prophecy of going back to source, I think many of us know, there's a knowing that we are here to assist humanity and planet Earth to step up into that new Earth, that new age, that new vision. And you are doing that with your shifting tides. You know intuitively that we're here to do something together.
Yeah.
And I really feel that we're in good hands. and we will walk through the pain and suffering. That's a big cleansing and purification period for humanity.
Yeah.
That the future we create together, that we are going to create that sacred future together.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, Fumi, we shall end our interview here. It's beautiful. It's been really insightful. And I think you brought out a very valid point. And we all, whoever is watching, is going to be listening to this, will be able to introspect and see, because if we don't go back to our source, if we don't go back to our truth, then to navigate through these times will be very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I think the way this pandemic is increasing in terms of its time is because it's giving humanity more time. More
Yes.
time to just, I'm giving you a little bonus time. Now look at it. Now see it. And now get to your truth, get to your source. Because only then will there be collective consciousness and an human evolution,
Yeah.
That is important.
So
Well,
true.
thank you so much, Fumi. That was wonderful. That was really nice.
You're welcome, Mahima, and such a privileged honor to be with you and your listeners.
Yeah.
Spend this precious time together. Thank you so much. May
Thank
peace prevail on earth.
May peace prevail on earth. Thank you. Goodbye, Fumi. Goodbye.
Bye.
Talking to Fumi brought home a very valid point. In these times of crisis, our only go-to is to find that peace within, to go back to source. And on that note, we wish you goodbye. Look after yourselves, and we see you again with yet another story very soon. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Goodbye.